Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here, by the way. Oh, you can tell I was working on my presentation right up till the end. So here we go. I sit in the Office of Research at Mason, and I wanted to share with you, so a personal note is the reason that I'm not related to the Big Lebowski, by the way, but the reason that I got interested in entrepreneurship was I couldn't afford college. I was broke. And I started my first business in my dorm room. And so I got out of college debt free, after 4 years. And it really started on a path. And so, once you start down this path and you become interested in entrepreneurship, it's amazing what it leads to. And if you keep an open mind, it can just go after one thing the next. So I did a startup in internet cataloging software, and then that sold, and then I did another one, and then that sold, and then you can see where this is going. I did another one, and guess what? That one sold, and then another one, and this one sold in 6 months, which was like a super surprise. Like that never happens. That's almost lightning striking. By the way, one of those, the third one went public, and then it sold. And then I did this one, and it's actually The Living Dead. And then, because sometimes that happens in startups. And then I did another one, and that one's still running, and it's doing great. And then I did another one, and that one sold, and then decided to go into state government to start a bunch of programs to help entrepreneurs. And that worked out pretty well. And I'll cut to the chase. I ended up at Mason, which is a great place to end up. Just some fun facts about Mason: 40,000 students. Most are born in the region and stay in the region. And for somebody who works in economic development now, that's a great great recipe. More than half are racial minorities. Most are first generation. Most work and go to school. About half of our students started out in community college and ended up at Mason. We're the youngest R1 research university in the country, so it looks. Our research and our invention disclosures look a little bit like a hockey stick. And you heard from Hina Mehta earlier. She is an amazing force who manages to stay on top of all of these technologies. And we're rapidly adding a lot of computing badges to upskill the workforce as well. So we've added some badges in cybersecurity most recently. Mason's actually got 3 campuses. Fairfax, it starts at Arlington, which is closest to DC, and then Fairfax and the Prince William, which is our sci-tech campus, and they form an innovation district. We also run a number of incubators, and we run a number of federal programs that are in partnership with the local communities. So we've got a footprint over Northern Virginia, and the university for a long time has seen itself as a player in the economy. So anything that we do, we try to make sure that it impacts the local economy, which was part of what really attracted me to coming to the area. Our incubators are called Mason Enterprise Centers, and they're for companies to land. They include lots of services: mentorship, phone answering, group health insurance, payroll support, accounting, and human resources support. So we try to provide more wraparound services to companies once they are ready to move out of the university and they're ready to grow. Inside the university too, we also have a pretty big maker space. We've got a beautiful new one that was just completed, and it's been closed during COVID, but it's about to reopen in this new space post-COVID, and we're looking at it to be a student entrepreneurship incubator, as well as a collaboration and development space and education training space. Last year, Mason's staff that sits in my department put on 859 entrepreneurship events across the Commonwealth of Virginia with 18,000 attendees. And we're looking forward to doing even more in this next year. So last year, just to give a perspective, my staff helped, and by helped, I mean provided one-on-one counseling assistance to 10,000 businesses. We've got about 100 counselors for people who help start businesses, and our financial impact on the Commonwealth last year was about $2 billion. But we try to do this all with partners, and we consider University of Maryland, for example, to be to be a great partner, because we don't want to build or own any of this. This is a great ecosystem, involves lots of people and lots of players, and we try to refer places and companies to the best possible resource to help them. And so whether you're a student, research faculty, or if you're a community entrepreneur, we'll figure out a way that we can help you. And I wanted to provide some tips here. I taught entrepreneurship in the College of Engineering, but I'm not an engineer, at the University of Michigan for 5 years, but I'm not an engineer. So it's kind of proof that anybody can learn anything. And so I think anybody can learn startups. And so I just want to leave you with these thoughts for anybody who's thinking about either commercializing a technology, if you're a researcher, or starting a company, is, ask for help. Number one, always ask for help, because especially for a technical entrepreneur, you have so many things that you need to deal with, and not everybody knows everything about a business. But also ask for help from the right resources, and the right resources are people who've built companies before. If somebody's had to suffer through how to make payroll on Friday, then I consider them to be a pretty good, and they came out the other side. They're usually a pretty good resource to ask for help if that's your measurement tool. Go after public non-dilutive funds whenever you can, and I know both Virginia and Maryland have great resources in that respect. But only go after public funds as long as it's in your strategy. I've seen lots of companies go after SBIRs, for example, that were a little bit of a left turn for them, and it only causes pain in the long run. Practice pitching. Anytime you have an opportunity to go to a pitch event, you should take it. It's Silicon Valley companies are kind of legendary, but the only difference between them and companies I see any place else are the amount of practice that they get in providing their pitches. So learn how to talk about your research in a way that meets the public and meets the audience, and learn to talk about your company in that way too. And then at the end, thank those who help you along the way, because a lot of the help that you're going to get are from people who will not financially benefit from anything that you're working on. They just want to see you do well. And there are a lot of people like that in the ecosystem. So make sure to say thank you. Here's my contact information if you ever have any questions or are interested in anything that I talked about. And now you're going to get the heavy tech stuff from Julie.
I don't know about the heavy tech, but certainly I am not a quantum physicist or a quantum computing expert. Like Paula, very similar background, recovering entrepreneur, recovering government appointee. Someday I'm sure I'm going to have to recover from academia as well. But we announced last night, let's see, there we go. I'm trying to see how I can share my slides. Here we go. We announced last night the launch of the quantum startup Foundry. And so I want to share a little bit about the specifics of what we're doing around quantum. And so Paula and I have worked together before she came to Mason. And as she mentioned, committed to finding ways to partner and leverage each other's resources. I think that too few academic institutions tend to do that. We get, other than research, and so I'm really excited to launch this and find other ways, and we continue to look for other ways to partner. So what is the Quantum Startup Foundry? Specifically, I want to start, and Piotr actually did a pretty good job of this, so I'm not going to talk too much about this. There are a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities in quantum. It's new and disruptive. It's early, so it requires a heavy science technical background. But the thing with quantum is you still got to pay attention to the market opportunities, which are still evolving. So there's still questions out there. Somebody, asked, what is the unique value proposition that quantum can solve over, say, parallel computing or high performance computers? That's not fully known yet at the end user space. It's still in development. There are some things that are pretty clear. Using sensors for navigation is pretty well regarded. Understanding that cryptography is going to be blown away because the computers are going to be able to decrypt anything using our current algorithms. And so there's a lot of people looking at quantum proof cybersecurity. As Paula mentioned, starting with non-dilutive funding is absolutely as much and as frequently as you can get it. So grants, while even for research grants, there are research grants that will help you, like from the National Science Foundation. Their Partnerships for Innovation will actually help you further your research towards commercialization. And I do hate the word commercialization. Most pure scientists don't like it because it feels like it's commercial and we're selling out. But in reality, let's call it translation. It's translating your research into practice or into driving impact. Small business innovation research and small technology transfer research, SBIR, STTR, great resource too for early stage non-dilutive funding. And in addition to looking into entrepreneurial opportunities, if you're still in school, consider internship opportunities. A lot of these companies are going to need somebody to come, and it's a great way to learn about what they've got going on. I know IonQ, you guys, we were talking about them before. They have pretty aggressive hiring and growth plans. So, check out, there's other companies too, but finding internship opportunities is a great way to gain experience and exposure to figure out what area is really interesting. So what is the QSF? It's a physical and it's a virtual community, brings together resources to advance innovation in quantum through startups. How we do it is a little bit different. What we're really focused on is bringing entrepreneurs together with customers. And so the resources that you have at Mason, for developing your business strategy, your business plan, your go-to-market strategy, practicing your pitch, those are all absolutely, we're not recreating any of that. In fact, we're trying to build on that with very quantum specific needs, to meet very quantum specific needs. So that would be, again, connecting with customers in the industry and government to help understand and help shape maybe even your research through like an I-Core experience, or somehow, help shape what it is that you're doing or what you should be doing and what their needs are. We technical mentors from academia and industry, tying in with the research, quantum specific infrastructure, which that's one area that we know we need to partner. You've got certain equipment at Mason, we've got certain equipment in College Park, QSF, and working with some of our partners, we're hoping to build the connection so that you don't have to, so that you know where to go to get the equipment, and we're trying to make it easier because a lot of this equipment is really expensive, and how do you, as a startup, you can't afford to get in and buy your own equipment, but you need to use it to do testing and validation. And then investors, we're going to have, I think I say this later, an investment summit, a quantum investment summit early this fall, late summer, early fall, to bring investors that invested in companies like IonQ to meet some of the new startups and just to kind of connect those bridges, and with the idea of bringing all this to market. So this is just a very poorly PowerPoint. We just launched last night, so still trying to get our resources to get pretty graphics and things, but we're focused on pre and post startups. So if you just have some technology you're working on, we can help, working with the resources at Mason, and then also working with us for the quantum specific access to customers. Customers are looking for innovative ideas to take to their customers, and they can help provide market assessment and validation, partnering and going after particular contracts, especially in the government, and potentially investments. So, if you look at who IonQ's investors, Lockheed Martin Ventures was one of them, GV, Google Ventures was another, Amazon was another. So a lot of these folks who are customers are also investors. And so we're connecting those dots. The pillars of what we're building on is, of course, the research and education in the region. And we do consider this a regional thing. And that's why the Quantum Startup Foundry logo does not look like the University of Maryland. That was intentional because it's not just a University of Maryland thing. We see this as a regional thing. And perhaps someday we can open up a QSF incubator or space in one of George Mason's campuses. I mean, I would love that. Infrastructure, as I mentioned, and then talent. This is a big thing for most industries, right? Getting access to qualified talent and postdoc students, entrepreneurs, mentors. We want to connect all those dots, as well as everything else in the ecosystem. Having access to supply chains. So I think Piotr talked about, the quantum IP realm. It's not just something with quantum in it. There's a lot of enabling technologies that need to go to get there. And so making sure we can help you connect with all of that. So we have one of our first programs. This is for companies who are a little bit further along. It's called the Traction Program, providing partners and prime contractors access to a pipeline of promising technology startups. And it's really helping the startups to solidify customer requirements, build partnerships, and understand how to work with big companies too. I mean, so my company, my first company was in barcoded inventory control for food manufacturers, and Procter and Gamble was my sugar daddy, my funding, my big company that I worked, not the only big company, but my first big company. And learning to work with big companies like a Lockheed Martin or Booz Allen, it's a very different world. And so part of what we're doing is trying to help startups understand, how do you work with these big companies, these large contractors, or working with the government. So that's a big piece of that. So then for companies who aren't quite there, we have the pre-traction program, which is really looking at how do we help you identify and get SBIRs, STTRs in quantum, connecting you to regional research partners, regional I-Core assets, so that we can make sure your SBIR will have a greater chance of success if you've done something like I-Core. And then looking at, quantum specific market commercialization assessment assistance. And one of the things that's a big thing with SBIRs is having letters of support from industry partners. And that's the other connectivity point that we're bringing to this, is easy ways to get letters of support from industry. So what's in it for startups? I think I kind of went through that. Deep assistance. We privilege access to IP. One of the projects Piotr's working on is trying to catalog all the IP, and how can we get that out with less friction. Regulatory guidance. One of the things that's emerging with quantum is it is regulatory, it's export control. A lot of the startups we're talking to would like some help in navigating that. And then finally, technology and business validation from outside experts. I know we have ties with IBM, and if you're a software provider and you run on IBM's Qiskit or their hardware, they might bring you into their program, and we have connections to help you get into that if that's the right thing for your company. These are all the stakeholders. There's a lot of them, and kind of what is in it for them. What do they get out of it? There's a lot. I just had a great conversation with a Big Four accounting firm, and they're so excited about what we're doing because it helps them to help their customers understand what's coming down the pike and how do they get ready for it. I talked a little bit about the activities. We're doing a quantum, you saw the two programs, traction and pre-traction. We're going to be hosting this quantum investment summit and a lot of other webinars and educational type activities. And that's really all I have. So I tried to talk fast and be respectful of time, but I guess we can open it up between, if you have any questions for either for me or for Paula, please ask away. I talk too fast, I know. It's the GSD thing. I actually
Paula, you're muted.
Have my
we've had to do a lot of pitches in our lifetime. That's why we talk so fast.
Right. Paula, I need to get you one of my bracelets.
What does it say? Can't tell.
Get shit done.
I need one.
I'm gonna get you one.
Thank you.
Great. Where can I get it?
Where can you get the bracelet?
Yeah.
Send me your address. I'll send you one.
Friend of Julie.
Yep. I'm also gonna put the website for the Quantum Startup Foundry in the chat. And if you want to go to it, you can send me an email through that. Did I put the right slash on there? I don't think so. Yeah, I did. Hopefully that'll get you there. No, it didn't come up. All right. But like I said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out, want some additional information. Piotr's going to be working closely with the Foundry as well. Really excited about that.
I'll jump in with one question because I have a 3 o'clock meeting, so I can answer my question and I'll fire it off. So I'm with the U.S. Navy here at the Bethesda Laboratory. So I'm going to use one of our wonderful and most hated phrases, Valley of Death. And I'll make it by blaming us. We do lots of stuff and we just don't ever carry it along far enough because our DoD sponsors and work we're doing. And that seems to be almost the core of our struggle. Dealing with that both in dealing with government customers and also your university in terms of stuff that's just not mature. Oh, you're muted.
What? So the question, yeah, the question was how to deal with the Valley of Death?
Yeah, from I'll mute my different customers and different ecosystems have different definitions of different where they're at, like government versus university, which I think deal with the same problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's so one of the things that this comes with that the QSF, we starting next year, we'll have an investment fund that we can do some really early pre-seed investing in companies. And so that will help. I mean, we recognize that disruptive technologies that are, low on the TRL level have a lot of, I mean, that's a problem across the whole university sphere. I mean, all of our technologies that come out of tech transfer are generally pretty low on the TRL level. And so we're looking for translational funds everywhere we can. That's why SBIR STTR is a great vehicle. We have some other funding mechanisms that are specific to the state of Maryland. I know the state of Virginia also has some through CIT and some of the work that Paula is doing. So, I mean, I think that's part of what we can do is help to navigate these funding opportunities, or we have the Maryland Industrial Partnerships that allow you to partner with the university, and the state will pay the university to do some research on your behalf. Being an entrepreneur means being scrappy. So we right.
Yeah, I would add to that. One of the first questions, in coaching a company, is if they say, the government is my customer, we always say, so who else could be your customer? And maybe is there a stop in that trajectory and that commercialization trajectory where maybe there's a private sector organization that would be the customer first, because sometimes government decisions take a long time, and sometimes all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to hop off. I've got my people waiting in another computer in another room for a 3 o'clock meeting.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I would add to this answer. I mean, in the end of the day, there has to be a person or a group of people who are passionate about the idea, the tech, that have to execute. If there's nobody doing anything with the tech, it's not going to go anywhere. That's why a team is a necessary ingredient. Someone has to run with it.
Exactly right. I also have to hop off for a 3 o'clock meeting, but this has been great, and thank you, George Mason, for organizing this and for bringing the folks together. I think I'm looking forward to really working with you guys on continuing to push the limits and being entangled with you on this journey.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Julie. I have another question, probably a quick one. For example, if one of the professors want to start a company with his technology or something in his mind or her mind, who he should talk to in the first, how to begin this process?
So the tech transfer office is just not about transferring technology. They also provide a support system for entrepreneurs, so they can help guide the faculty member towards the resources that are available. Julie had mentioned, I-Corps. In Virginia, we have ICAP, which is even earlier. It's a precursor to I-Corps. Both are great resources to help you think through who the customer would be, because I've worked with lots of faculty over the years that have developed something and then hand it to me and say, now tell me who's going to buy this. It's much easier. So this is why your question is so great, is it's much easier to say, okay, I'm thinking about this, and to get feedback and iterative feedback from a potential customer about what the product should look like, feel like, who, what its usability would be, what else it plugs into, for an example. So I would say both of those programs, but Office of Tech Transfer, is usually a good point of direction. And I believe Julie oversees Office of Tech Transfer. She was at University of Maryland. So.
Yes, she does. I will add to it. I think the single best thing that you can recommend to a professor who is thinking about starting a company based on his technology is to suggest him or her to sign up for a regional node of I-Corps. This is a low investment low time investment event for a professor and maybe his one of his students. It's 2 weeks really, or 2 weeks plus, let's say, and you go through the basics of thinking about what value I might be bringing to them, to what customer segment, and it's a great way of just putting a toe into the water and seeing if starting a business is something I even want to do. We are UMD is a node for National I-Corps, and we have those short versions of I-Corps running regularly. Right now, we have one going on. I'm a mentor for the participating teams. I cannot think of a single better way of testing the water, whether starting a business is something that professor want to be involved in any way.
Yeah, all the startups that I did, that I showed on that slide, I was always the chief marketing officer, so I wasn't the CEO, and really my job was to figure out who was going to buy something, what did it have to look like, how much were they going to pay for it, what was the decision process to get there. And so when they came up with I-Corps, I really liked it because it was basically, I went, oh, so I-Corps was basically what my job was. I love that they're getting somebody to think about it easier. But makes it much more easier when it comes time to engaging a customer, when you've been thinking ahead of time about where your product fits and who wants it and why.
And thank you. So in general, I guess one of the concerns for professors to start a company is that it may take a lot of time, suck the time and energy from his research or her research. Is there any a estimated ratio of time splitting, or it depends?
I have a graphic I show sometimes, all of the things that is required for a faculty member to do, a researcher to do, that they're not trained to do. And it's things like, customer discovery is one of them, fundraising is another, all of the things on a trajectory to get a technology to market. The faculty, and I've worked with some amazing faculty who've done that. So they're one of two ways. One is you can learn all those things yourself, which takes a long time and it can be a little bit painful, but I've known some people who've done it well. Or better yet, partner with people who actually do know those things and they can take that off your plate and work with you to be able to get those things done. So it's a heavy lift and you have to want to do it, and you really have to want your research to impact society to be able to go down that path.
I think scientists, professors absolutely underestimate the business side of things, how much of a learning curve it would be, how much of a time sink it would be. If you talk to a venture capital firm such as OCG, University Partners, who is specializing in investing in university spin-offs, they almost have a rule that they break very rarely, that if the CEO of the company is the professor, they would not invest in it, which is a manifestation of the challenge trying to build a business while your main passion and time commitment is research. There are exceptions to that rule, also by Osage. And for example, sometimes they would look into companies where the professor is an interim CEO, things like that. But ultimately, from my little experience at the Tech Transfer Office, the most successful situations are created when a good team is formed between someone with entrepreneurial business experience and the scientist, and the business person is driving the business side of things. This is probably the best recipe for success. Obviously, there are exceptions. Some interesting situations I've seen were with companies started by a recent graduate that takes this technology or this idea and runs with it, or a postdoc. There is interesting dynamics that can be created in those situations. But what happens is the grad student or graduating student or postdoc, they basically commit fully to building a business and leave academia.
Yeah, of my 7 startups, 4 of them were spin-outs from 3 different universities, and in every case, it was the grad student who took the technology out